At 5:30 with several cops accused of being on the wrong side of the law. We first broke this story last night on 7 Action News at 11, and tonight 4 officers are charged with taking bribes and using their guns and badges to transport cocaine. They had no idea the FBI was watching and setting up drug runs. Today, the defendants faced a judge. Jeff Vaughn has been in the newsroom with former FBI agent Andrew Arena, who's been sharing his thoughts on this case.
I'm now joined by Andrew Arena, who is the executive director of the Detroit Crime Commission and former special agent with the FBI and was in charge of the district office here in Detroit for quite some time. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's interesting, this Highland Park case that came out today, it really is almost like a crime novel, if you will. We have 2 officers innocent until proven guilty. We have Officer Anthony Bynum and Officer Price Montgomery, who at one point in time allegedly roughed up a resident, took some money and some jewelry, and then that victim became a confidential informant for the FBI. Tell me how you, I don't know if it's cultivated is the word, but how do you get that trust with that confidential informant to get to the point where this was a big case for the FBI?
Well, the confidential informants, the sources they're critical to a case like this. They're giving you a glimpse inside. They're giving you, quite frankly, an entree into an organization. So, you know, you've got, as you said, you've got to cultivate these people. You've got to get them to trust you and basically kind of take you into the scenario, into the front door.
And without a confidential informant, you might have never known that this kind of behavior was going on?
You may not have, or it may have been much more difficult to prove.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. The police chief there at Highland Park was aware of some underhanded dealings. I think that he had worked very well with the FBI, so that was good to get that involved. But I think what was interesting was after those 2 officers, and Bynum and Montgomery, initially met with FBI officers in what would be called, I guess, a sting of delivering drugs for money, it didn't end there. A lot of people would think, well, you know, they've done something wrong, you could arrest them, but tell me a little bit about how the FBI sees that as maybe another opportunity to see if this is a larger case.
Well, I think this case is kind of a classic undercover scenario, kind of the reverse drug deal. And I think in this situation, the FBI or any law enforcement agency, they're going to let this thing run as long as they possibly can to make sure that they get as many people. I think that, you know, it's critical to understand that obviously this is embarrassment for law enforcement and this department in particular, but it's not representative of the entire Highland Park Police Department or, quite frankly, law enforcement in general. But you want to let this thing run to make sure you get as many of the bad actors as you can.
So you start with 2, but what makes the FBI agents believe that there might be more involved? Because outside of Bynum and Montgomery, it sounds like those 2 officers recruited 2 more, and Sean Williams and Craig Clayton, to be part of a larger sting. What makes the agents, is it a gut instinct or is it just more evidence?
Something came up during that investigation that led those agents to believe that the problem was a little more widespread than just those 2 cops. So there has to be, and I think it'll come out in trial or as the case proceeds through the court system, it's going to come out there was more evidence that led them to believe, hey, this is a little bit bigger than at first glance.
And that last alleged delivery was Wednesday, today's Friday, so you really turned that around pretty quickly, the agents did, right? Yeah,
I think they did, and as you said, you know, the chief of police knew something was wrong here. Yeah. He had gotten some complaints, so you know, he brought this forward, and I think it's incumbent upon law enforcement to act quickly with some, especially when it's your own brothers and sisters involved. These guys are supposed to uphold the law, not break the law. So you've got to get these guys off the street as quickly as possible.
And I would assume that if it was a sting was set up by FBI agents, there would be video evidence, audio evidence involved in all of this, wouldn't there?
Yeah, from the charging documents that I saw today, I mean, obviously you had fake narcotics, but I'm pretty sure they probably had recording devices secreted in vehicles and on witnesses and things like that. So you probably have audio, video, plus physical surveillance.
Andy, thank you so much for your time and your expertise on this story.
Thank you.
All right.